since the coronavirus has come out, I felt like I needed to redo the opening of these programs and let you know, number one, we are praying for you. Now remember this, God has not given us the spirit of fear, but of power and of love and a sound mind. And I'm telling you prophetically that when we get out of this, and it won't be that long, the blessing of God is going to fall in our lives as never before. Now, in this program, you're going to hear us talking about our project, Aliyah, with Ethiopian Jews coming to Israel. And we're doing that. Matter of fact, we have about 50 Ethiopian Jews that we just got out right before the isolation came about, and they're in Israel right now. But I need to tell you, we have something that's even more needy right now, at this very moment. We have 1,500 Holocaust survivors that we've taken on the feeding program in Haifa, Israel, and we have to do this now. It's not that we can say, a month from now or 2 months from now, we'll start feeding you. These precious people have to stay home. They're in there, most of them in their late 90s, some are even 100 years old. They have to be isolated and they have to be fed. So I'm going to ask you, please help us right now to feed these precious people. And don't you know, God will open over all of us the windows of heaven. We're praying for you. Our best is yet to come. Thank you so much for saving lives. Now listen, at the end of the program, Tiz and I are going to pray for you. We're going to cover you and your family, that no plague, no sickness. We're in this world, guys, but we are not of this world. That's right. The sickness is not going to come on you and your family. No. That's vitally important. Amen. But as well as God, the Passover, that's what the Passover offering is about. Take the blood of the lamb and put it on the doorpost of your house. And God says, when I see this, I will pass over you, where I will cause the spirit of death to pass over. And we're going to show you something. No sickness is coming on you. That's right. But it's not just no sickness. Whenever God is moving spiritually, Tiz, he always moves financially. So we're going to cover you that no sickness will come on you and your family. Amen. That the miracle healings are coming on you in every area of your lives. We've seen this with Tiz. We've seen this with Lion. When you see it in somebody else, God's going to do it for you. But when they were leaving Egypt, God said, don't leave without the silver and the gold. Right now, we are in a grace period for you to get your first fruit offering in. You cannot get to the 30, 60, 100-fold in the area of financial blessing without getting this blessing in. Now, let me read this to you. The Bible said, well, let me back up. Malachi chapter 3. Everybody knows Malachi chapter 3. Return unto me and I'll return unto you. God says, they said to God, how do we return? And God says, in your tithes and in your offerings. What does God mean when he says offerings? What he means is 3 times a year, you come before the Lord and you do not come empty-handed. The first one is Passover. You cannot get to the prosperity that God has for you if you miss the Passover offering. You cannot get to third base if you haven't gone to first base and second base. It's the law of God. You're watching because God not only wants to stand in front of you and your family and make sickness pass over you, he also wants to open the windows of heaven to get you 30 Passover, 60 Pentecost, 100-fold, the Feast of Tabernacle offerings. Now, I don't usually read this, but I want you to talk about the journey of prosperity. Let me read this, Exodus chapter 23, verse 14. 3 times a year you shall keep a feast to me in the year. you shall keep the feast of unleavened bread. And we are in a grace period right now.
Yeah.
In about 20 days, that window will shut. Now, if the Lord doesn't come back next year at this time, that window will open back up.
Right.
But if you miss it, it shuts for one whole year.
Wow.
And there is no way, listen to me, there is no way you'll walk this whole year in the blessing of God, the full blessing of God. You'll get blessed. You'll get blessed in the Pentecost. You'll get blessed in the feast. But you'll never walk in the full. And you know what? Just a thought came to me. This is why we're giving you double. We want you to have the tallit. We want you to have the 7 places Jesus shed his blood. We want you to have, take my word and put it on the doorpost of your house. But we want you to give it to someone else.
Yes.
When I don't think we've ever taught this, at least we take it in church when we're talking about Jewish roots, but when God said, take the blood, when the Israelites were in Egypt, put it on the doorpost of my house, those who obeyed put it on the doorpost of their house, but everyone they brought into their home, they received the blessing of God also. And then when they were leaving, they left with all the silver and the gold. We're right now in a window of a journey of prosperity, and you teach this so well.
Well, I love this because it's the one-time miracle, but it's also God taking us on this journey.
Absolutely.
So that we're not always living hand to mouth.
Right.
You know, I love that. And this is something that in our lives, Larry, we have learned, is that the greatest way to be blessed is to live being a blessing.
Absolutely.
And so when people are praying about their needs and they're praying about God meeting their needs, we need to get in the mindset of God to be a blessing first. And then,
take 2 minutes, talk into your camera, because, when Tiz and I first started pastoring and everything, actually Tiz runs the finances of our home. She used to run the finances of the church. She knows how to pray in that financial blessing. Talk for 2 minutes.
We, in the ministry, we had, in our early years, we had a poverty mindset. We really did. And we had to learn how to think like God, not to think in terms of lack or insufficiency or not enough or just get by, but we had to learn how to be a supplier and how to appropriate finances into our life and teach it to our people. We learned that we would never live by a budget. We would live by the word of God, by faith, and our budget would line up with that faith. No matter what we're facing in the world, there are always circumstances in the world. The world is the world, but we don't live under those circumstances.
Oh, that's
whether
so
it's
good.
finances, whether it's our health, whether it is our families, we live under the grace of God, the favor of God, the protection of God. And it's so important in this world. Things go on. No matter if it's the coronavirus, no matter if it's finances in the world, that's for the world. You and I live in God's supernatural economic system of blessing. And we have to step into what he says to do to be a part of that. And when we give, when we are givers, it taps us into God's supernatural supply. And I love this with Passover because not only does it tap us in, but it says, ancient Jewish wisdom tells us that as we give the Passover offering, God will divorce us from failure. God will divorce us from lack. God will divorce us from anything in the world that has to do with shortage. You see, others that don't have a covenant with God, they may live in shortage. God bless them. They need the good news too. But for you and I, we live in God's miracle provision. And as we change our thinking to be God thinking, to be promise in the word thinking, our life will change.
God says, prove me in Malachi 3.
Yeah.
Prove me if I won't open you up the windows of heaven. And I know most of you have heard us teach this before. The word window in Hebrew is the word yeshod.
Yes.
God said, when you bring your first fruit offering, 3 times, your tithe,
Yes.
but when you bring your 3 times a year offering, prove me if I won't open up a yeshod, a funnel from my throne, my power, my might to your need.
Amen.
Right now, we need the divine protection of Passover so that sickness and disease won't come on us or our family.
Absolutely.
But we also need a miracle in our finances. And listen to me, I'm going to prophesy over you. This offering is going to launch us in, all of us in, to the greatest financial year we have ever seen. And it all has to do, as Tiz says over and over again, we are blessed to be a blessing. You know, we're talking about Passover. We're in a grace period of Passover, leading us up to Shavuot and Pentecost. The Passover was the Exodus. Everybody knows the story of Exodus. Everybody knows the story of Exodus. Everybody's seen the 10 Commandments and Charlton Heston. But do you know the Bible talks about a second Exodus? That the second Exodus it says it in this way in English. How do I say it in English? It says the second Exodus will be so unbelievably great that no one will even talk about the first Exodus. The second Exodus is God bringing Jews not out of one country right next to Israel, Egypt, but God bringing the Jews from the 4 corners of the earth. And God said this will be a sign of the end times.
Amen.
When Israel becomes a nation again. In Isaiah, the prophet Isaiah, maybe I'll read it when we get back. Isaiah 11, it talks about this. God bringing the Jews from the 4 corners. But he says there'll also be a miracle which he reaches the nation, the Jews, from the nation of Cush. Now that's English. Hebrew, it's the nation of Ethiopia. Oh my goodness, we're in Passover. Israel's become a nation, and now the window of heaven right now, and it's going to be gone in just a few days. The window of heaven is opened up over you right now, and we're also a window. It is an urgent window right now of fulfilling the prophecy of Isaiah, where God pours you out a blessing because you have saved the Jewish people from the nation of Ethiopia. These Ethiopian Jews are in dire straits. They're in refugee camps, no sanitation, they're starving, they're in fear. It's a horrible situation. And the government of Israel called us so that we could tell you. And I declare to you, when you save their lives, this next year is going to be the best year of your life so far. We'll be right back.
Your Passover first fruits offering is God's method of opening up the windows of heaven and pouring you out an abundant blessing. The window of blessing is open for you right now, and we encourage you to sow your seed into the good soil of our ministry. Your offering will be used to save the lives of Ethiopian Jews who have a narrow window of opportunity to escape harsh persecution and make the long-awaited Aliyah to Israel. The Israeli government has asked for our help in providing the airfare and immigration costs for these dear people, but it has to happen now. To say thank you for being a blessing, we want to send you 2 copies of Pastor Larry's classic book, 7 Places Jesus Shed His Blood, one to keep and one to share with a friend. This revelation is a game changer and will take your Christian faith to the highest levels. With your Passover offering of $125 or more, we'll add 2 beautiful 7 Places mezuzahs. These are powerful biblical weapons that God instructs us to mount on the doorpost of our homes. It's part of His plan to release blessing and protection over you and your family. As you help rescue these Ethiopian Jews with a Passover offering of $500 or more, we will add 2 shoulder-length 7 Places prayer shawls, or tallits. These are a powerful symbol of your faith, a key weapon of your warfare, and can play a significant role in your prayer time. You will always find God in this secret place of prayer. To say thank you for your generous first fruits offering of $1,000 or more, we'll add this unique Passover communion set for your home. Especially designed for Passover, this beautiful box set includes everything you need, including grape juice, matzah, communion cups, and an informative pamphlet to equip you with the knowledge you need to celebrate Passover, Shabbat, or communion. To help with this critical humanitarian project, please call today at 800-978-8546 and pledge your support. We need friends of Israel like you to come to the aid of these Ethiopian Jews who urgently need us to get involved. Helpful operators are standing by right now to take your call, or you can go online to our secure website at larryhuck.tv. If you prefer, you can also send your offering by mail to the address on the screen. But the fastest way to help is by calling 800-978-8546. As you're learning, God ordained Passover to be a special window of blessing for you, but it comes only once a year. So don't miss this opportunity to sow a seed toward your personal financial harvest. Your offering, large or small, will make a tremendous difference to the least of these, our brethren. And as you do, you will activate the promises of God from Genesis 12:3. We sincerely appreciate your generous support and thank you for helping us show the love of God. Now, let's rejoin Pastors Larry and Tiz.
In ancient Hebrew, there's no word for coincidence.
Amen.
If you're watching right now, it's not a coincidence.
Right.
It's ordained by God because
Yes,
God
absolutely.
is getting ready to bless you in ways that you can't even imagine. And He wants you to be a blessing. But not, first off, He wants you to be a blessing to yourself. Secondly, He wants you to be a blessing to the Ethiopians. There is dire straits right now. This window is a very short window.
Yes.
Not only are we just days away from the window, and once again, I wish I could come and lay hands on the spirit of your mind. Guys, God has 30, 60, 100-fold. This year, I prophesy over you and over us. This year is going to be an amazing year. It's going to be the best year so far. But if you miss this next few days, this window of Passover, on the journey to the promised land, on the journey to prosperity, if you miss this, the first is the Avot. It's what births all the rest of the blessing.
Yeah.
If you miss this, you'll never see all that God has for you and your family this year. It's just the way it works.
Yeah.
But not only for you, but it's a window for these Ethiopian Jews that are living in incredibly bad situation. And you think, Tiz, about the prophecy of God said, I'll bring the Jews from the four corners of the earth.
Yeah.
And He said, and then He includes especially Cush, which is in Hebrew, Ethiopia.
Yes.
Let me read a prophecy for you. It says in Psalms 91, this needs to be, we need to give this as a gift one of these times, guys. Psalms 91. He who dwells in the secret place of the Most High shall abide under the shadow of the Almighty. And I will say of the Lord, He is my refuge and my fortress. Now, if I have a chance, I'll read more. God says, he who dwells in the secret place. The other scripture says, when I see you in the secret place. What is the secret place?
Right.
You have, and this is why we teach to read the Bible from our Jewish roots. The secret place is the tallit. That when you go under your tallit and you pray and you shut the door, God says this is your secret place. It's your personal holy of holies. When you shut that door, the devil's not allowed to speak to you, and you're won't be double-minded, because a double-minded man is unstable in all of his ways, and let not that man think when he prays he receives anything from the Lord. So this is one of the reasons why we don't, as you send in your first fruit offering, as God opens the windows of heaven, we want you to stand in the gap for someone you love. And not only give one for you, but we want to give a second one that you can give to somebody else. You know, somebody, one of our best friends for 30 years,
Yeah.
one of his family members just got diagnosed, his son-in-law got diagnosed with cancer. And so he was telling him about, you know, prayer, and he's telling him about the Jewish roots and telling him about praying under the tallit, and, you know, been telling him for years. But just the other day, his best friend flew in to see him and brought him a tallit and told him how to pray, close the door, shut the door. This is exactly what we want you to do. Listen to me. God is going to protect you.
Amen.
God is going to prosper you. We are on a journey to prosperity.
Amen.
I understand what everybody's doing, and we need to take care of business. We wash our hands.
Absolutely.
We sanitize the church.
For sure.
But we're in this world. We're not of this world. And as Israel 'tis, it's so powerful. As Israel 'tis left Egypt, they left the limitations of Egypt. That's what Egypt means. Limitations. And they began the journey to the promised land.
Right.
No disease came on them.
No.
None of the plagues came on them. Tomorrow, I want to read Psalms 91 because it's so powerful. Not only did none of the diseases come on them, none of the plagues came on them, none of the things that came against the Egyptians came on them. But as they were leaving, they left with all the silver and the gold.
Amen.
When you read Exodus, and God says 3 times a year you come before the Lord and you don't come empty-handed. You read Exodus 23:14. And it says, and they brought gold and silver and beautiful wood and linen and thread. They did that to build the temple, the tabernacle. And in English it says, God says, bring me this offering. You are no longer a slave. You're in this world, but you're not of this world. You're no longer just someone who everybody else runs your life. You are now, through this offering, a covenant partner with God. And God, in English it says, build me a place that I can dwell with you. But in Hebrew it says, bring me this offering so I can dwell in you. And I declare to you, physically, health-wise, emotionally, financially, greater is he that's in you than anything that can come against you in this world.
That's right.
We are in this world. But just like on Passover, we place the 7 places that Jesus shed his blood. On the mezuzah, we have the 7 places that Jesus shed his blood. So when you walk in, you know, faith cometh by hearing. When you walk in your door and you walk out of your door, on every mezuzah is a shield. And it reminds you that through the blood of Jesus, the shield of God, the protection of God is on you, your household, and all you love.
Amen.
We love you guys. Tiz and I will be right back. We're going to pray the power of God.
Your Passover first fruits offering is God's method of opening up the windows of heaven and pouring you out an abundant blessing. The window of blessing is open for you right now, and we encourage you to sow your seed into the good soil of our ministry. Your offering will be used to save the lives of Ethiopian Jews who have a narrow window of opportunity to escape harsh persecution and make the long-awaited Aliyah to Israel. The Israeli government has asked for our help in providing the airfare and immigration costs for these dear people, but it has to happen now. To say thank you for being a blessing, we want to send you 2 copies of Pastor Larry's classic book, 7 Places Jesus Shed His Blood, one to keep and one to share with a friend. This revelation is a game changer and will take your Christian faith to the highest levels. With your Passover offering of $125 or more, we'll add 2 beautiful 7 Places mezuzahs. These are powerful biblical weapons that God instructs us to mount on the doorpost of our homes. It's part of His plan to release blessing and protection over you and your family. As you help rescue these Ethiopian Jews with a Passover offering of $500 or more, we will add 2 shoulder-length, 7 places prayer shawls, or tallits. These are a powerful symbol of your faith, a key weapon of your warfare, and can play a significant role in your prayer time. You will always find God in this secret place of prayer. To say thank you for your generous first fruits offering of $1,000 or more, we'll add this unique Passover communion set for your home. Especially designed for Passover, this beautiful box set includes everything you need, including grape juice, matzah, communion cups, and an informative pamphlet to equip you with the knowledge you need to celebrate Passover, Shabbat, or communion. To help with this critical humanitarian project, please call today at 800-978-8546 and pledge your support. We need friends of Israel like you to come to the aid of these Ethiopian Jews who urgently need us to get involved. Helpful operators are standing by right now to take your call, or you can go online to our secure website at larryhuck.tv. If you prefer, you can also send your offering by mail to the address on the screen. But the fastest way to help is by calling 800-978-8546. As you're learning, God ordained Passover to be a special window of blessing for you, but it comes only once a year. So don't miss this opportunity to sow a seed toward your personal financial harvest. We sincerely appreciate your generous support and thank you for helping us show the love of God.
First off, Tiz and I want to send our love to you. Obviously, she's not in the studio with me right now. She's under strict isolation. But we want to let you know that God has got you covered. We have got you covered. And we are every day sending the blessing and the favor of God onto you and your life, your health, and your finances. And we want to thank you in advance. Listen, there's never been a more important time for you to help us do what God's called us to do. You know, the program was about bringing in Ethiopian Jews to Israel, and we're doing that. That's shut down now, but we already had about 50 Ethiopian Jews come in right at the beginning of this, before the isolation took place, and they are safe with their families in Israel right now. But we have an urgent need to feed these Holocaust survivors. Before any of this happened, God knew. And God told us with our partners that we are to take care of 1,500 Holocaust survivors in Haifa, Israel. They cannot come out of their homes. Not only is all of Israel in isolation, but these elderly are especially vulnerable, and they have to eat. And when God spoke to us to feed these Holocaust survivors, He knew what was going to happen. And He knew that as we sow this seed into these precious people's lives to save their lives, remember what God says, when you save one life, I see it as if you've saved the whole world. Don't you know that the Lord of the harvest in this time is going to bring exceedingly abundantly back into your life beyond anything that we have ever thought or imagined. So thank you so much right now for helping us save these Holocaust survivors. God bless you. We love you.
There is no better time than now to stand with Israel. You can dramatically impact the daily lives of Jewish people through our ministry outreaches, planting olive groves, helping Jews Aliyah to the Promised Land, feeding Holocaust survivors, and providing immediate emergency aid through mobile ICU ambulances. Every offering counts, and your recurring gift of $25 each month will make a difference. Join Pastors Larry and Tiz today as a monthly partner and become a part of repairing the world.